Hello, good morning. My name is Shohai Lara, and I welcome you to another edition of Sunday Morning Dose. Here at Sunday Morning Dose, we look at God's Word from Christ's perspective. We usually say to ourselves here that if Christ will not be about something, we should not be about it because we are proteges of Christ. What that means is that we are supposed to exemplify Christ here on earth. We are supposed to behave in the order of Christ's behavior, and that is what is expected of us as a Christian. So today we'll continue on the conversation we started some weeks ago about the fact that our relationship with in Christ and with Christ should give us and place us in a point and a place of advantage. Our network has direct impact on our network, and information or applied information is power. These are the two things that we are supposed to display in Christ in such a way that by the time we are beginning to execute some of these things, people will clearly see the edge that we have in Christ, such as they saw in the lives of Peter and John in Acts chapter 4, verse 13 to 14. These are some of the things also that should be replicated in us, that we should replicate effortlessly. So, talking about your edge in Christ, your edge in Christ. The very first week we talked about the fact that Jesus would call us solution, will make us solution provider, that our relationship in Christ will place us from being the one looking for solution to being the solution provider. And then the second time we had to discuss this, which talking about last week, we talked about the fact that our relationship in Christ will give us some access, will give us some level of access into God and into His doings. We are supposed to have access, and Jesus Himself displayed this access. So in John chapter 5, verse 19 to 20, but Jesus said, I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing alone. The Son does only what He sees His Father doing. The Son does whatever the Father does. The Father loves the Son, and the Father shows the Son all the things He Himself does. But the Father will show the Son greater things than these to do. Then you will all be amazed. So we should gain access. We should gain access, and our exploit here on earth should be evident because of the things that we are seeing our Father doing, or that our Father has done, and that should be our testimony also here on earth. So we'll continue this conversation by reading First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32, which is part of our anchor scripture for this series. First Chronicles 12, verse 32, from Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do. 200 ships with all the relatives under their command. Men who understood the times and the season and who knew what Israel ought to do. The sons of Issachar. So let's title this, your edge in Christ. One of the edges in Christ would mean that we have a clear understanding of the end game. There should be a clear understanding of the end game. If you are a lover of chess or you've played chess before, this particular phrase should be common to you. You should have heard it. that the end game, the person who had the end game in mind, is always the winner. There should be an end game. If you play any strategy game or any war strategy based game, you would have been able to have been familiar with this saying, that you must have and keep an end game in mind. It's a must. It's a must that you must keep an end game in mind. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 13 to 14. Verse 13 to 14. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its salty taste, it cannot be made salty again. It is good for nothing. End game, nothing. It must be thrown out for people to walk on. That is the end game of someone losing his saltiness, or the characteristics of losing one of your major components of being a salt. The end game is that it will be thrown away. Verse 14. You are the light that gives light to the world. A city that is built on a hill cannot be hidden. And verse 15, let's take this as end game. And people don't hide a light under a bowl. End game. End game. People don't hide a light under a bowl. They don't hide it under a bowl. They put the light on a lampstand. Then the light shines for all the people in the house. End game. The light shines for all the people in the house. The reason why you would invest into getting light in the first place is not to be put under a bowl. You don't do that. You don't do that. In fact, if you would do that, there is no difference between someone living in darkness, abject darkness, than the other person who had placed their light under a bowl. You put it in a candlestick or in a light stand, on a light stand, to give light to everyone in the house. The end game. So let me ask you, do you have any end game in mind? Is life just everything you could see? Or there is an end game behind your doings, behind your work? Let's take a clue from Jesus. John chapter 6 verse 15. John chapter 6 verse 15. You know, some people didn't understand Jesus' end game. They thought he was just here for the meantime. So they meant well, but it was something that was counterproductive to his end game. John chapter 6 verse 15. I read from KJV. When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain himself alone. They wanted to make him a king. This is what many of us will have jumped at. Jesus ran away from this. You could have a momentary king. You know, if you are familiar with chess and what you call checkers, you would know that just becoming a king does not necessarily mean that you win the battle or the war. You know, in fact, if it's not strategically done, you could lose your king or your queen to a pawn. That is how serious this topic is. That we must have an idea of our end game. And that is what we should have in Christ. That is what one of the edges we should have in Christ. That there should be an end game in mind. There should be an end game in mind. That you are not living life a miserable person. Living life for all that there is now and now only. Jesus rejected being a king, and he literally ran away from one because of an end game. So what was Jesus' end game? And what placed Jesus at this point? His relationship with Christ. Understanding with his relationship with God. Understanding where he is truly from and implementing that here on earth. So John will talk about this. In John chapter 3 verse 31, I read from New International Version. The one who comes from above is above all. The one who is from the earth belongs to the earth and speaks as one from the earth. The one who comes from heaven is above all. So, what would shape your end game? Where are you from? The understanding of where you are from would shape your end game. And your end game literally will change the whole dynamics. How you talk, how you behave, how you relate, what you fight for, and what you live for. The end game will change your frustrations to glory, will change your seemingly bad situations into good ones, and will make you run away from those things that would momentarily being perceived to be king or to be a priesthood satisfaction, and then will make you chase the cross. Because at the end of the day, 2,000 years after, lifetime after, when eternity sets in and when timelessness sets in, that would make a lot of sense to yourself and to the one that sent you and from where you are from, because you have lived for an end game. So I charge you this morning to begin to look at your life and ask yourself, what are you living for? And how is your relationship with Christ helping you to shape your end game? I'm sure of one thing. I'm not sure of what your end game is, but I'm sure of one thing. It cannot just be for earth and now alone. It must transcend into generations forever. And that should be what you should be about. It should not be short of that. If it is short of that, then your end game is not in view. So I hope this has helped. I hope this would challenge you to begin to query and question your total motive to life, and to begin to see how Christ would help you shaping that motive. Till we see some other time, same station next week. This is Sunday Morning Dose. I remain your host. My name again is Seun Ailara. Thank you.